Bionic. If you guys want to go ahead and check out any of my Apple reviews, including an early unboxing of this iPad as well as the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro coverage, I've got a link down below, but make sure you subscribe to the channel, have your post notifications on, and also leave a comment down below if you have any questions of this latest generation iPad mini. So one thing that is a little bit different about this year's iPad is that I'm trying to figure out who exactly it is for. I've loved the week that I've had with it. I feel like it is one that fits very well in the lineup, and overall the design decisions, the tech updates, the display, the pencil support, and everything has been really great. And I also love the fact that it is just like a very cute form factor that is easy to take around, and with the folio case and everything, it is just like one that I can see myself using quite a bit for multimedia. But at the same time, it has the power and capability to be able to do more intensive tasks such as photo editing and video editing, and it doesn't have support for a first-party keyboard, which I can't really replace a laptop with. So with the price increase of about $100 to a starting point of $499 with 64 gigs, I'm just trying to figure out where exactly it fits into the lineup, considering the iPad Air 4 starts at a price of just $599, and I've always said that that was a very good deal. And the reason why $499 might be a little bit tough for some people out there is because Apple does have an iPad 9 that starts at a price of $329, which is just like a very unbeatable steal in terms of the power that it's able to provide. And yes, it doesn't have the flashy design, it still has the home button and the original pencil support for $329, and a very capable update that they brought in 2021 from a spec standpoint, and being able to use all the great apps in the Apple iPad ecosystem. It just has me figuring out who exactly this iPad mini is for, whether it is for kids, for students, the 5G support, or it's like a productivity machine that people are going to have in conjunction with a laptop, or maybe just an accessory to their smartphone experience and using it to consume multimedia. So beginning with the design, that is probably the best part about the iPad mini. It now shares very much the same direction of the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. The bezels have been reduced in size, the home button is gone, and I wouldn't say the bezels are razor thin. They are a lot smaller than what they were before, but there is still a bit of a bezel that goes around. And you also have your camera that is located on the top here. You're also gonna find your volume rockers and also the actual Touch ID in the sleep wake button, but they have also added the pencil magnet on the side and a USB Type-C port on the bottom, but the top just does seem a little bit crammed because you do also have a stereo speaker setup, which is really great for watching YouTube videos, movies, or just listening to music, but the top just does seem a little bit crammed, and I would have liked to have seen the volume rockers over on the bottom, but if you're using it with a folio case, then it might be a little bit weird to access, so there really isn't a perfect design just because they have to put the magnet for the pencil on the top. The Touch ID built into the sleep wake button is the same one that you find on the iPad Air 4. It's very fast, it works great, and the USB Type-C is also a very welcome addition because it is up to 10 times faster in transfer compared to Lightning. So if you want to transfer photos or video clips to edit on the iPad and utilize the capabilities of the latest generation Apple Pencil 2, then you can definitely do that. And that is an area that I've tested a lot of when it comes to the power capabilities and everything. I just love to edit photos using the pencil because for retouching it is a lot faster than doing it on a computer with the mouse, especially because I'm left-handed and I use a mouse right-handed. It also comes in a new color set including Starlight, Gray, Pink, and Purple, and the Starlight is the one that I have right here. It almost has a very subtle champagne tint to it. My favorite one is probably still the Gray, but it is also a bit odd that it doesn't really align with the same color set that they did in the iPad Air 4 and also kind of in a way to the new iMacs. Talking about the display though, it is an 8.3-inch liquid retina that is up to 500 nits in brightness with a wide P3 color gamut, true tone, and generally speaking, I would say the experience is quite good. Even though there were rumors of there being a mini LED display which gives you a brighter overall experience and increased color gamut, this right here is actually a pretty solid screen for its size. The PPI is retained, and when it came to editing photos, I found that the colors with the wide P3 were accurate enough that I would trust the color representation that I was getting on this iPad. For watching movies and TV shows and everything, the experience was equally as good, but I feel like the only area that it is lacking a little bit is when it comes to the brightness. So if you're outside, 500 nits is probably not going to be enough, at least compared to some of the Pro iPads that have that mini LED display, the HDR and everything that is able to bring that brightness into the 1000. But I think for like the main demographic that is looking to this iPad, this display is actually really solid, and I've overall been very satisfied with it, and the Apple Pencil latency is also very minimal. Beyond the display and design though, perhaps the area that needed the biggest upgrade over the years is in the performance. And the iPad mini hasn't really been updated in 2019, and as you know, since then, Apple has made huge advancements in their chip technology, and this iPad right here has the new A15 Bionic, which is shared with the one that you have on the new iPhone 13 and 13 Pros. Compared to the previous generation iPad mini, it has a 40% faster CPU and an 80% faster GPU, and it is more powerful overall than last year's iPad Air, which makes sense, and I imagine this year's iPad Air update will bring it up to par once again, but you do have a ton of power in a tablet of this size. And in previous years, I always saw the iPad mini as one that you would like give to your kid, maybe watch some movies and TV shows and like browse the web, and very much like a multimedia or like a couch machine that allows you to at least watch on a bigger display than like an iPhone, for example. But this year, this actually has some real power, and I really did want to test that with the photo editing. I know a lot of times people comment on these videos that I don't really test every aspect, but I just like to talk about the fields that I personally use the most, just to give you like a real world representation. And I will say, when I used to edit photos on like the iPhone, the biggest problem that I did have, even though it had the power to be able to use Lightroom and do like presets and all these little updates, the screen would always dim because the phone would try to prevent itself from overheating. And from my experience on the iPad, it was able to edit photos flawlessly with the A15 chip, and I would edit multiple of them at a time, have different layers, some masks, also some retouching, and generally speaking, from the transferred speed to the actual like editing process itself, I didn't really notice any major hiccups. Some of the things that I also use iPads for is just like emails, also going on Frame.io and watching some of the videos over. But to be honest, photo editing is the area that I really test the graphics performance, but I don't really do any video editing and stuff on like LumaFusion, because honestly, editing on an iPad is just a very unintuitive experience, and I can get things done much faster on my computer. So that is just an area that I haven't really touched. I don't code or anything, but this iPad, looking at the size and everything, and the fact that there isn't a first-party keyboard, is really one that I feel like is focused for you to use with the Pencil or also as like a multimedia device. When it comes to like gaming on the iPad, this is also a really good size for that, and you're going to see significant improvements thanks to the CPU and GPU as well, so that is also something to consider. From a power standpoint though, with the compatibility of the Apple Pencil 2 and the new processor, it is able to handle pretty much everything that you want to throw at it as an average consumer. If you fully rely on an iPad, you're probably going to cause it to be at some level of stress, and I did notice that when I had a lot of things open, one side of the iPad would be a little bit warmer than the other. It wasn't anything extreme, it was just like kind of an observation when I didn't have it in the case. But with like the entire iPad ecosystem and all the apps that you have available, it is like a relatively efficient platform because I haven't really ran into performance issues in the past on the tablets. There's adequate cooling, the processors are being updated yearly, and I do really think, even up to now with the design, the performance and everything, this is the iPad update that we have been waiting for. The kind of cherry on top for everything is also the 5G compatibility. It gives you download speeds of up to 3.5 gigabits per second, which is really good. And if you're someone who is always on the go and has a SIM card on the tablet, then that is going to be much appreciated. But honestly, I usually am connected to Wi-Fi when I'm using the tablets. So before we move on, I want to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this video, MSI, and their MEG 274 QRF QD Quantum Dot display. This right here is a great monitor from a company that is very reputable in gaming, and not only is it very good for that, but at the same time has a lot of features that give you excellent day-to-day image quality as well. The design is overall very nice with the stand and also the LED lights on the back. It's also very adjustable, but the quantum dot technology gives you nice and captivating colors around real needs and wants, and also gives you like a very accurate representation of the real image. This monitor also has a rapid IPS panel, making it the fastest liquid crystal IPS panel, which can achieve a 1 millisecond G-to-G response time, which traditional IPS panels can't achieve. So for anyone who also plans to game in their setup, the 165Hz refresh rate with that 1 millisecond response time will be very noticeable, paired with the NVIDIA G-Sync compatibility. Because we are talking about the iPad mini 6 though, one thing that I really like to do on the iPad is edit photos. So being able to plug the iPad into the monitor in like a desk setup situation allows you to take advantage of the new Apple Pencil 2 compatibility and be able to like draw in Lightroom and do like masking while also being able to see it on a larger display. So a lot of times on a computer I'll be using like a mouse, but being able to use the pencil and scroll around and be able to see all the details on the quantum dot technology display like this was very useful. So if you guys want to go ahead and check out this MSI Optics series monitor for yourself, I'm going to drop a link down below. The other great update though is on the speaker side. You now have a stereo speaker setup that is able to project nicely and give you that level of separation, and whether the quality or the loudness has been improved at all, having the stereo setup will always make the biggest difference in my opinion, and Apple has had a great focus on audio in the past few years when it comes to the computers, the smartphones, and even in this year's iPhone, it is noticeably better. And when it comes to like watching YouTube videos and movies, I think they've done a great job in terms of the updates, and it's nice to have speakers on both sides now. The next great feature though is the cameras, and I'm not talking about the back one. Honestly, I don't really care about the back one, but the front-facing camera has been improved significantly. The one on the previous generation iPad mini was honestly a potato, but this year you have a 12 megapixel sensor on the front, and beyond having like a better resolution for FaceTime or conference calls as like a work machine, what is also great is that there is center stage support that we first saw on iPads last year, where it does have the ability to just keep you in frame wherever you are, and it is a very, very wide lens. A lot of times if you're just like in the kitchen and like on the call and are walking back and forth, the ability to keep you in frame is really, really nice. And it's something that I find myself using in the real world all the time. And on the back, there's also an improvement there as well. A 12 megapixel sensor that is able to record in 4K, but some of the improvements really come in the image signal processing system with the new Bionic chip that is able to optimize the photos a lot better to give you better image quality overall, even though they may not have made like significant improvements to like the lens or sensor, kind of like what they did with the iPhone SE 2. So yeah, like the 12 megapixel sensor with the f1.8 aperture compared to the 8 megapixel camera and 2.4 that you found on the previous one, in addition to the smart HDR3 support, is going to improve the photo quality significantly. The battery life, on the other hand, I would say is about the same as what you would find on the previous generation iPad mini. It is able to get through about a full day, and for what I use an iPad for, that is perfectly fine. And I do also like the fact that it uses USB Type-C, because if you have a MacBook, for example, you can just use that same charger and it will charge it at its maximum speed. When it comes to some of the accessories that you should buy though, I would say the Apple Folio case is one that like looks very clean and it just like comes together nicely. It's obviously perfectly sized and it has the magnet, but aside from having a stand, it doesn't really have much functionality. And I think this orange one right here is one that I would definitely get. It just looks very friendly with the silver color and it protects both sides of it. But I think eventually I will want to try out some third-party keyboards just to see how good they are and if there's a usable Type A experience on a reduced size. And I think that will bring the functionality of the iPad mini to the next level because of the portable size and the power that it has. So now that we've covered like all the categories of the iPad mini 6, what do I think about it, and is it worth the extra $100 that they're charging this year, especially when compared to the rest of Apple's lineup with the iPad Air 4 at $599 and the iPad 9 at $329? Because Apple has made this lineup really hard to decide with so many great products at different price points and different intentions that at times it can be a little bit confusing. And I would say this iPad mini is definitely one that I plan to use because I love the design of the iPad Air, the iPad Pro, and I think it's going to be one that they stick to for many years from now. And I feel like the iPad Pro lineup is also going to have a very similar design, aside from maybe some improvements in reducing the bezel size and everything, because there is still more room that they can get right up to that edge. The performance overall was really good. I was able to edit photos and everything. This pencil also works very well, and it's one that we've been used to for many years now, and it's just nice that it's able to magnetically attach to the side. And for a lot of people, this can actually fit in your pocket, and to have something this powerful in your pocket with a great camera, 5G, a tablet experience, a large screen to watch like YouTube videos and movies, while being able to do like all your tasks and conference calls with the new camera and the center stage, it really does make it a machine that is a lot easier to justify and actually integrate into your actual workflow compared to trying to decide between an iPad and a MacBook. Because even up to now, with all the improvements that Apple has made with the iPads and how impressive it is that a desktop computer shares the same chip as a tablet, I've still stuck to using a MacBook Air as like my on-the-go product. And by having the iPad, it really does fit in perfectly, because a lot of times your smartphone screen might be too small, but the iPad Pro 13-inch is just not something that I really want to replace my computer with based on the software experience alone. Is this a good deal at $499? I would say it's a little bit tough. I think at a price of $450, it would be a lot easier for people to justify, because in a lot of cases, the iPad Air 4 is going to be the better value, considering it has the same starting storage at just $100 more. At the same time, the iPad 9 is just such a good deal. Especially with the educational discounts, you can get it at a price where, with some of the upgrades, even with not as much power as the iPad mini and some of the features, if you're just looking for a tablet experience that is powerful enough and you're not someone who really cares about the pencil experience, it's just really, really hard to beat at that value. So I don't know, I feel like at $450 it would have been absolutely perfect and hands down one that I would recommend, but by bringing it to $499, I think they know that it's more so a product that is going to compete or bundle against the iPad Air 4 as opposed to the iPad 9. The only small complaint that I have is the lack of headphone jack, because if you're getting this for your kid, where at its size that could make a lot of sense, then having to set up like AirPods or like a wireless setup is going to be a lot of work, and a lot of times you just want to be able to plug it in and put it in their ears, and by removing the headphone jack, that does make it a lot harder. But otherwise, that is pretty much my review of the iPad mini, and as you can tell,